That's how Pizza Hut makes it great.
Tonight, Dave's all new with Paris Hilton. Then, Miriam Tucker tells Dave how she swallowed a $5,000 diamond and recovered it. Tonight and tomorrow, Nathan Lane.
It's more common than you might think. Depression. It's the mood disorder we can't see with our eyes, but can be as devastating as any serious physical disease.
And now one of our own colleagues has chosen to tell his story as he learns to deal with his diagnosis. KOLD News 13's Barbara Grijalva is joining us live now with that report. Barb?
As many of you know, our chief meteorologist, Chuck George, has been away for a while. It's because Chuck, like millions of other Americans, has been diagnosed with depression. Chuck has chosen to reveal that he has been in treatment for severe depression. As Chuck continues his journey of healing, he has recognized the power he has to reach out to help others. I'd like you to know now this might not be easy to hear, but I do hope you'll listen.
Well, I want to share the story for two reasons. One is because I really need to heal myself. It's kind of a final process in what I'm going through. And another is because I want people to know that they're not alone. I thought I was alone for a long time, and I know I'm not now.
As you might imagine, coming out of deep depression isn't a simple task. Depression is a very common mood disorder that can range from mild to severe and in serious cases to having suicidal thoughts. There are many causes. As Chuck knows, family history is a powerful one.
My family tree is full of suicide, of depression, of addiction. They're all interrelated, and my family tree is just packed with it. And I never thought it would happen to me. And I wish that my parents hadn't died so young from depression and addiction.
Behavioral health specialists say depression and addiction often are linked. Tucson psychiatrist Dr. Richard Rhodes says what becomes an addiction started out as a way to try to cope. Dr. Rhodes is not involved in Chuck's treatment.
People with depression might feel hopeless or sad, and they might turn to drugs or alcohol or any other kinds of compulsive or addictive behavior to manage those feelings or adjust those feelings.
Dr. Rhodes says a serious loss can trigger a severe depression episode. Chuck recently lost a cousin to suicide.
And when he was growing up, he was like my little brother. And that event and that funeral unleashed something in me. Depression is cold and it's dark, and it feels like something on top of me. 4 weeks ago was catatonic. I remember sitting, and the sun rose and sat and rose and sat and rose and sat and rose again while I stared.
Chuck says he lost his voice, his vision. It was the scariest thing that had ever happened to him. There were signs long before that, though. Chuck says he just hoped it would go away.
I just thought, get over it. Get over it. You know, you've got a great life. What's wrong with you? And people in my life would tell me that too. And God, if I could, I would.
Which brings us to what not to say to someone who is dealing with depression.
And I grew up with people telling my mom and my grandma and my grandpa, just get over it, snap out of it.
The depressed person is not trying to be depressed, and if they could get out of it on their own, they would have already.
Chuck says with all the illness in his family, he is the first who has been able to get the help he needed.
I feel blessed. I also, to be honest, feel burdened. I didn't want this, but I have it.
Chuck says accepting that fact has been what he calls a very big deal. Now he has the proper tools to deal with it, and he wants others to know there are treatments.
Absolutely, yes. There are many good treatments for depression. Talking in general tends to help with depression, either working with a therapist or working with a doctor. And then for moderate to severe cases of depression, medication is also used, maybe in combination with talking or therapy or on its own.
Dr. Rhodes says patients need to recognize the signs. As with most illnesses, it's best to get to it early. Chuck now knows how to recognize the early signs. Both he and Dr. Rhodes say there's no guarantee a patient won't relapse. Dr. Rhodes says depression is complicated, but the early signs are there.
You can't stay focused, or you're having a hard time, feeling good about your accomplishments and who you are.
Chuck is ready to return to the job he loves. He says he has learned to stop judging himself and to give himself a break as he works to overcome what he recognizes as his toughest obstacle.
I learned in treatment that I don't have to be ashamed, and that's such a relief. It's a process, and I fight off the shame moment by moment. It's not something that just went away.
Chuck will be going back into the public eye, back on television, as he continues his journey. Some might wonder what to say.
I think I would be fine with somebody saying to me, hey, I hope you're doing well. That to me gives me strength.
And Chuck is stronger now, in so many ways.
I'm always going to have depression, but it's not going to be in front of my face. I'm learning how to take depression and move it to the side. I wish that so many members of my family hadn't died from this, but they did, and I'm still here, and I'm still standing, and I'm going to fight it.
And Chuck's plea is that people reach out for help, and there are several agencies in Tucson. Dr. Rhodes says the crisis hotline is a very good place to start, and of course we have that information on our website, TucsonNewsNow.com. Just click on this story, and we have other information there as well, other agencies that you can just walk into.
You know, such an educational piece. Both Chuck and I are from Oklahoma, and I remember hearing that as a kid, just man up, deal with it.
Yeah.
So, very eye-opening.
So heart-wrenching to watch.
It is.
Yeah, and I think people need to learn, and the great thing about it, I mean, I don't want Chuck to get mad at me for saying this, but it's worth it if he does. I think it was a very brave thing that he is doing, and Dr. Rhodes was astonished by it, and it was very commendable, because what Chuck is doing will probably save lives.
Absolutely, I believe so. Well, we're excited for him to come back to work.
Yes, and all of our hearts are with him.
Absolutely.
Very much so. Thank you so much, Barb.
Thanks, Barb.
Weather's up next. We'll be right back.